This week, Reverend Wendy continues her series, 3 Essential Prayers, by talking about the prayer of thanks. Reverend Wendy reminds us that the prayer of thanks really helps change us and requires awareness, appreciation, and a change in perspective.
All right. Well, I have really been enjoying exploring Anne Lamott's book, Help, Thanks, Wow, the 3 Essential Prayers. As I shared with you last week when we looked at the first prayer, the prayer Help, I like simple things. I like things that I can remember easily and apply when things are going crazy in my life. When I find myself overthinking or overanalyzing something or spinning it in circles or juggling too many plates in the air, there are times that I need something clear and really simple as a go-to. Any of the rest of you like that? Find help with that? So, like a word, a practice, a something, a mantra to anchor me and pull me back to what I really know to be true, no matter what craziness might be going on around me. So Anne Lamott is a New York Times best-selling author. She is a speaker as well. She's an activist as well. She is very real, very approachable in her style and her writing, and really funny. I came across a somewhat recent TED Talk of hers called 12 Truths I've Learned from Life and Writing. Whenever there's something like that, 5 this, 12 that, 7 the other, I'm always interested. And so I watched it. It was like 15 minutes long or something. 2.6 million times this little clip of hers has been viewed. It's less than a year old. 12 Truths I've Learned from Life and Writing. And I want to share a few of them with you to really open us up even more to laughter, to joy, and then to our exploration of thanks as a prayer. So here's one of the 12. I'm not going to give you all 12, but here's one of the 12 that she gave. You can get most anything to work again if you unplug it for a while and then plug it back in, including yourself. Isn't that great? Including yourself. I found this one to be funny as well. Don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. It will only make you worse than you already are. Doesn't sound too unity, but I like it just the same. Here's one as she was describing the process of writing, because she teaches, I guess, a lot of people how to write and assures them that everybody's first draft is just terrible. And the ones who are successful as writers are ones who keep their bottoms in their seat and just keep working and working and working and practicing and so forth. And so she says, when talking about writing, she says that every single thing that has happened to you is yours, and you get to tell the story if you want to. If people wanted you to write more warmly about them, they should have behaved better. I loved that. And no, I'm not writing a book about what it's like to be a Unity minister. And this last one, that wasn't so much one of her 12 points, but was just a statement she made that I loved. And it is this: laughter is carbonated holiness. Isn't that adorable? Laughter is carbonated holiness. Think about when you see a little video of a child just bursting in laughter, or a person of any age just bursting in laughter. It is carbonated holiness. If you don't remember anything else today, I hope you remember that. Let us have more carbonated holiness all around us. Let us be generators of some carbonated holiness. So prayer and thanksgiving and thanks as a prayer. Prayer is not meant to change God. In Unity, we look at prayer as the activity of changing our minds, as the activity of lifting our consciousness above the appearances of a situation, to the deeper truth and higher possibility inherent within the situation, no matter what the situation looks like, from the outside or on the surface. You know, at least I believe you do, that Unity was founded as a prayer movement. We have Silent Unity, our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week prayer ministry that's been in operation for more than 100 years, offering prayer support literally to millions of people all around the world in a variety of languages and a variety of ways. We've even moved into this decade with apps from Unity for prayer. So prayer, we are anchored in prayer as a movement and as a teaching. We practice affirmative prayer, which we might simplistically describe as speaking the word of truth or speaking to Spirit, speaking to God. And we practice the silence, which is a form of meditation, which is listening deeply to and for that still small voice of God, that still small voice of truth. But we do this not to convince or to change an anthropomorphic being sitting somewhere in the sky that's deciding, I'm going to answer this one, I'm not going to answer that one. I don't like that style, I do like this style. I'm too busy right now. Well, some of us need a grown-up God. Some of us still have some work to do around our understanding of what God is. We see prayer as a high activity of mind and being, in which we practice raising our attention, as I've said, above the appearances. So prayer is meant to change us. When we looked at the prayer last week of help, that prayer to move into the energy of help, where we are willing to ask for help, requires a certain kind of change on our part. Probably requires a change of letting go a little bit, of surrendering a bit, of recognizing, hey, I've reached the limits of what I know how to do right now, and I admit that to myself. I acknowledge that, so that in the admission and the acknowledgement, I can be open to a higher truth, a higher answer. So it's about me changing me when I pray the energy of help, the request of help. In the situation of thanks, the change is a change in perception. It's a change in awareness. It's a change in how I am looking at what's around me and looking with the eyes of appreciation, looking with the eyes or through the lens of possibility. It's a shift in perspective. And yet, if we're really honest with ourselves, too often we have the tendency, and we've gotten really good at it, of practicing just the opposite, of practicing lamenting, of practicing being aware of everything that's missing, broken, not working, that's wrong. And for some of us right now, I had several people share with me after the first service how much they needed this reminder right now because of how they are feeling about the state of our country and our world and the news that they're reading and how they feel about all of that. That they find themselves, they're aware that their conversation and their thinking is thinking down and very negative and very angry and frightened and critical, and not at the same time thinking up and beyond what currently exists. Our teaching is a deep, mature, practical, real, mystical teaching. It is not a teaching that says, pretend that what's happening isn't happening. It's not, we don't say put your head in the sand, but we say make sure you are completely aware of just how what's the word I'm looking for? Pardon me? Well, no, I'm not talking about the misery, but just how we can be tricked is the word I was looking for, a simple word like that. Just how tricked we can be by appearances, and that we get stuck on the appearance level, or we get stuck on the effect level, forgetting that where our power is the power as first cause, the power of our consciousness, the power of our thinking, the power of our perspective, the power of our attitude and energy. And the prayer of thanks is as much a prayer of words as it is a prayer of energy, and a prayer of a way of being, a way of moving through life that says, yes, I can see what's problematic, but I don't keep my vision there. And I am thankful for all that can emerge that is bright and shining and positive and good. And so we need to shift our focus from lamenting to noticing, really noticing and giving voice to whatever it is that is working. I want to read something to you from one of our members. Her name is Kathy Berquin. And on her Facebook page, Inner Peace Coach, she wrote these beautiful words. If we rejoiced in and talked to others about every pleasant and positive thing we see and receive each day to the degree we lament and share the things that were not completely pleasant, our life and others' experience of us would be monumentally better. Can I have an amen to that? Amen. Yeah. If we rejoiced in and talked to others about every pleasant and positive thing we see and receive each day to the degree we lament and share the things that were not completely pleasant, our life and others' experience of us would be monumentally better. So maybe the practical place for us to practice, if we find ourselves really challenged, either by what's going on in our life personally or by what we see in our world, that when we catch ourselves in that fact sharing, that we make sure we counter it with, or we balance it, that's a better word, we balance it with hope and possibility and thanksgiving. It's easy to practice gratitude when everything's working well, right? It's easy to say thank you when you've been given something wonderful. It's easy to say thank you after. There's greater power in saying thank you before. There's tremendous power in expressing and feeling and cultivating an energy of thankfulness that is not dependent upon circumstances. That's the advanced course. That's the advanced course. Sometimes a loss that befalls us, we lose a job, we lose our marriage maybe, we lose a certain degree of health. Sometimes the loss that befalls us is exactly the experience we need, maybe not the one we wanted, but exactly the experience we need to begin to deeply rethink and retool our lives. What if we looked at those things that befall us that would go in the negative column of life, so to speak, and look at them from the standpoint of it giving us the opportunity to rethink our life, to rethink ourselves, to reinvent ourselves, to retool ourselves. The Apostle Paul said, "In all things give thanks." Say that with me, please. In all things give thanks. A huge spiritual light bulb went off in me years ago when all on my own I read that verse, and I'd read it many times before, and suddenly I got the significance of what it was really saying. I thought it was about thanks, which it is. But what I thought up until that point was that he was asking me to give thanks for everything. And I don't know how it is for you, but I've had things in my life that I can't genuinely give thanks for. Anybody else have things in their life that you cannot genuinely give thanks for? Very important distinction. He didn't use the preposition for. He didn't say, "For all things give thanks." He said, "In all things give thanks." Can you feel the difference of that? To me, part of the difference is giving thanks for something is connected to the thing. And I may not like the thing. The thing may be unpleasant, or the thing might be really harmful and really wrong. But in all things give thanks is not about the thing, it's about me. It's about my consciousness. It's about what energy am I going to bring into this impossible situation, this horrible situation. What is the consciousness I'm going to bring into this? Because the consciousness that I bring into anything in my life is the most important thing I have to offer. Because everything ultimately flows out of my consciousness. When I bring into those most difficult experiences of my life a consciousness of thankfulness, I'm bringing into that experience an expanded version of myself. Thankfulness opens us, right? Think about how you feel when you feel gratitude. Don't you feel open, right? Usually when we feel thankful, we want to do something for somebody else, or we want to share. We're filled to overflowing. Think about anger. Think about fear. Think about bitterness. Does that feel like expansion? No. It's contraction, at least on the soul level. It's contraction. When we are in this practice of, this prayer of, this energy of thankfulness, of thanks, we are operating at a much different vibratory level. And we will attract to us of like vibration. If we want to change our relationships, if we want to change our family dynamics, if we want to change our businesses, if we want to change our world, it really does begin with each of us working at our consciousness. These prayers, and especially this one, thanks, is meant to change us and to change us at depth. And it can be cultivated. It not only can be, it must be cultivated. I deeply believe this world needs you and I to be doing this work and doing it in the places where we don't feel like doing it, and doing it at the times that it is most challenging to do it. Reminded of what you shared with me, Aaron, right before service when we were chatting a bit. You said that sometimes when people ask you, how are you? You give the not normal answer. What do we usually say? Fine. Something like that, right? He says, sometimes I say, practicing gratitude. Can you imagine if we all walked around for an entire month and every single time somebody said, how are you? We said, I'm practicing gratitude, or I'm practicing love, or I'm practicing, especially if it's in a cantankerous, nasty, ugly kind of situation. I'm practicing love. I'm practicing kindness. Can you imagine if that was our response when we drive? What if the ultimate test of love, hang with me, what if the ultimate test of love is the way we drive our cars? Somebody said to me a few weeks ago, Wendy, you need to do a message, at least one, maybe a short series on the metaphysics and the mysticism of driving your car. I just might do it. Jesus practiced the kind of thankfulness and gratitude that I'm talking about. He practiced it and he taught it. He taught it by modeling it, which is the most powerful and important way that we ever teach anything, really. You may recall the story of him teaching for many days, and a crowd had gathered, and he was teaching for a long time, and the crowd was hungry. And the disciples came to him and said to him, the people are murmuring. I'm paraphrasing, but the people are murmuring, they're hungry, we should send them away. That's a whole part of the story too. That's the way we like to deal with problems. Just make it go away. Sweep it under the carpet. Don't really try to understand what the problem is and deal with it. Just kind of push it in somebody else's backyard. But he says, no, we won't disperse them. And he asks, what do we have? What do we have to feed them? Now, mind you, this is a crowd of people, and he doesn't know what's out there, supposedly. What do we have? And a young boy comes forward with a few loaves and some fish. And can you imagine for a moment what that might have felt like to a person at an ordinary level of consciousness? You want me to do what? A couple of fish and bread? This crew? You got to be kidding. Have you ever run that story in your own mind? I bet we all have. But he takes what he's been given, And we're told he looks up, which is metaphysically the Bible's way of painting the picture of connecting with our source, connecting with God. Looking up, looking above the appearance, which is, I don't know how this food's going to feed this crowd. To lift one's energy, one's awareness above what that looked like. So he did that. And then we're told he gave thanks in advance, beforehand, and then took those fish and those loaves, broke them, and spread them, and the story says all were satisfied and there was enough left over. Now we can argue and say, well, I don't think that that's truly what happened. I don't think that Jesus physically multiplied the food. He may or may not have. But what is true is the application of the principle and the practice of lifting one's attention above the appearances and operating at the level of thankfulness and belief. There are many who suggest, in studying Jesus' teachings more mystically and metaphysically, that any number of things could have happened that resulted in the people's hunger being satisfied. You know, our hunger can be satisfied in a lot of different ways, not just literally. Have you not ever had the experience of either seeing something so beautiful or hearing something so beautiful that you lost all sense of maybe physical hunger in that moment? I know I've listened to pieces of music where I've been so hungry going in, and then all of a sudden I'm so enraptured with what I'm hearing or seeing that there's a deep soul satisfaction. Have any of you had experiences like that? Sure you have. So there are many ways that that hunger might have been satisfied. There are those who even say that what very likely happened was a demonstration of inspiration that invited others to do the same, meaning that that young boy coming forward shared what he had. And here's where you need to know something about the culture and the time of this particular story. The culture and the time, people wore these long robes. And they would, when they would go up someplace away from home, it was customary to take bread or whatever with them, enough for their journey or enough to satisfy their physical hunger for a while. And they would have it in what we would call pockets. And what is believed was probably happened is that young boy had some, and so did others. But it took that young boy sharing what he had to inspire the others around to do some of the same. It's like being spiritually nourished and deeply fed because of an inspirational story that you've just heard or an inspirational act that you've just seen. So thankfulness, going back and getting ready to finish now, thankfulness is as much the words that we say as it is it's actually more than the words we say. It is the qualitative consciousness and feeling of appreciation that allows us to do exactly what Jesus did, to lift our attention above the appearance, which may be the appearance of lack or brokenness or poverty or injustice, to lift above that and to trust in and know that there is a higher truth, a higher plan, that there is a higher purpose wanting to and able to unfold. And we've got to believe that. We have every reason to believe that because of how we understand who and what God is, and that there is no place where God is not. And so all that God is present in equal time and space everywhere. And it is our consciousness of appreciation or consciousness of thanks that opens up the possibility for that to come forward so the appearance changes. I want to close with two quotes, very short ones. First one is from Anne Lamott in the book, and the second is from Meister Eckhart. Anne writes, "Service naturally flows from a grateful heart. When one feels grateful rather than entitled, one naturally wants to pass good onto others. A life of gratitude is not waving one's arms in praise, but using one's hands in service." Isn't that beautiful? Not waving one's arms in praise, but using one's hands in service. And then I'll close with Meister Eckhart. If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. Namaste. All righty.
Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.